Good morning, guys. I will go over the lab of the lymphatic system and the respiratory system today. So, uh, pretty much I will cover the models which we're going to use for the exam purpose in lymphatic system and the respiratory system. So let's go to study area of the mastering ANP. And then I will go over practice anatomy lab and practice anatomy lab 3.1. Anatomical models, lymphatic system. Okay, so as you know, lymphatic system lecture I have posted already. Lymphatic system is the system which carry excess fluid from the tissue which has escaped from the capillaries in the tissue back to the heart. And to do that, the lymphatic system has small blind-ended lymphatic vessels, and they start from each part of the body in the periphery, and then they carry one way from the tissue. They carry and then joins the lymph nodes, then the lymph nodes joins lymph trunk, then they become lymphatic duct, and those lymphatic duct then to the largest lymphatic duct, thoracic duct and right lymphatic duct, join the veins in the neck and deliver the tissue fluid back into the cardiovascular system. That is the function of the lymphatic system. And on the path of lymphatic vessels, there are a lot of group of connective tissue with a lot of white blood cells, reticular connective tissue, that is the lymph nodes, which carry white blood cell and they fight infection. That's why lymphatic system has another function of immune function. That's why lymphatic system and immune system work together. Okay, so we're going to see some of the models which we use in lymphatic system, which are the lymph nodes, lymphatic duct, lymph capillaries, those structure. So here, the tonsil. Tonsils are the submucosal lymph nodes, and they are pretty much all the way in the tracts like respiratory tract, genital tract, urinary tract, digestive tract. They are found under the mucous membrane, these all tracts. And when microorganisms enter through these opening of the body, these are the lymph nodes which get microorganism and fight first. So let's see the uh, submucosal lymph nodes, which otherwise known as tonsils in the oral area, and they are here. So this is pharyngeal tonsil. If you see under the mucous membrane, this is the group of lymph node that is called pharyngeal tonsil. In the posterior part of your soft palate, we have a palatine tonsil, and then under the tongue, we have lingual tonsil. Okay, so when you inhale any microorganism, this is the pharyngeal tonsil which fight the infection first because they have white blood cells. You see here, this is pharyngotympanic tube opening, and here is tube-like structure. This is called tubal tonsil, which is not the leveled here. Okay. Now, let me give you some idea. So how lymphatic system works. So as you see, the artery coming from your body comes to your hand, and then it becomes capillaries in all part of the bodies. And those capillaries then becomes veins. You see the blue one, they carry blood and goes to your heart. But some of the fluid comes into your tissue in the body, which does not carry it by veins. So they are carried by these white, tiny vessels. Those are called lymphatic vessels. Those lymphatic vessels joins and then becomes larger vessel. We call them lymphatic collecting vessels. And then lymphatic collecting vessels brings the lymph fluid, tissue fluid, into the group of the lymph nodes, which are reticular connective tissue with white blood cells, and they are found in different regions of the body. For example, in the axilla, you have axillary lymph node. In the neck region, you have cervical lymph nodes. Okay. And then what happens? This all from the neck region, head region and neck region lymph, and from the upper limb, they all join the lymph nodes and lymphatic ducts, lymphatic collecting vessels. They make right lymphatic duct. You see? So from the head and upper region, the largest lymphatic duct is the right lymphatic duct, which drained into jugular vein. You see here, subclavian vein and internal jugular vein. They join here and drain the fluid into the superior vena cava. Okay. From the lower part of the body, this is the thoracic duct, which brings the lymph and drain into the lower part and other half of the body, right half of the left half of the body is drained by thoracic duct. So let me explain here. Thoracic duct drain everything below the diaphragm, in the right side, in the left side, and everything in the head and thorax and the neck region, left half of the body is drained by thoracic duct. If you check your the lecture, you're going to see the diagram there, color diagram. Okay. So these all duct vessels, they are draining lymph tissue fluid from your body back into your heart through the veins. Similarly, as I said, lower part of the body, you see from the lower limbs, you have lymphatic vessels and then lymph nodes. In the iliac region, we call them iliac nodes. Then you have mesentery, the intestinal mesenteric, and that is called mesenteric lymph nodes. Around the abdominal aorta, we call them aortic lymph nodes. And then these all lymphatic vessels, and with the lymph nodes, they carry lymph through the thoracic duct, and this thoracic duct ascend in between the lungs, and then it pass behind the trachea, and it also drains tracheobronchial nodes, and then joins and forms the largest thoracic duct, largest lymphatic duct in the body, the thoracic duct in the left side of the neck veins. And then it also drain into the superior vena cava. So none of the duct drain into the inferior vena cava. They all drain into the heart through the superior vena cava. Okay. Some of the lymphatic tissue and lymphatic organs. The primary lymphatic organ is the thymus. Thymus is the organ which is behind your sternum. And this organ is very active in early age after the individual becomes puberty. The puberty age, your thymus is pretty much already shrunk. It does not do any function after that. So it is very active in early age. And the main function of thymus is the site for the maturation of T lymphocyte here. This is the thyroid gland. This is not the part of your lymphatic system. Some of the lymph nodes in the heart area, you can see thoracic duct and then lymph nodes around the heart, lymphatic collecting vessels. So you will find these lymphatic vessels all over the body because this is taking the tissue fluid, except your brain and skin. You don't have lymphatic vessels in the brain and skin. Again, another lymphatic organ is the spleen. Not the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is not the lymphatic organ. It is labeled here, but it is not. So it is spleen, which is the lymphatic organ. This is the largest lymphatic organ in the body, but spleen has two functions. It houses a lot of macrophage and white blood cells to fight infection, as well as it recycles the red blood cell, old, damaged, the fragmented red blood cell. So all red blood cell after 128 days, 120 days, they are destroyed here and recycled. This is the lymph node in the large axillary or armpit lymph nodes. You can see how lymphatic collecting vessels are bringing, and then it enters, and then it exits from this lymph node, axillary lymph node, and then it goes to your vein in the neck. Again, these are the lymphatic collecting vessels, then which comes to the lymph nodes, and then these inguinal lymph nodes from both sides pass through the the thoracic duct. Upper thigh, in the thigh region also, you have inguinal lymph nodes. Lymphatic collecting vessels are bringing the lymph to the inguinal nodes, and then these draining vessels, efferent vessels from these inguinal lymph nodes carry lymph fluid in the upper part of the body. Okay, so this is all in the lymphatic system. Let's go to the respiratory system. Okay, so respiratory system, we talked in lecture the upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. So upper respiratory tract is up to the larynx. So let's see what are those structure. You have the nasal cavity, you have opening of the nose, which is called vestibule, external nares. Then second part is the internal nares. So this is external opening where you put your finger from outside, that is external nares, and internal nares is the opening of the nose into the pharynx. So here is pharynx, nasopharynx, where you have opening of the pharyngotympanic tube, and then you have nasopharynx, the pharynx behind the nose, and the pharynx behind the mouth is called oropharynx. Pharynx behind the larynx is called laryngopharynx. Laryngopharynx is separated from larynx by this finger-like projected structure that is called epiglottis. Okay. The tonsils here, palatine tonsil, and then soft palate of your oral cavity. This is the hard palate, and this is soft palate. You can touch your hard palate with your tongue easily, but you have to take your tongue very back to see the soft palate. The upper respiratory tract structure, some more structure in the larynx, you can see here. You have the epiglottis, you have vestibular fold, vocal fold, and then thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and some of the structure in the nose, like superior concha, middle concha, inferior concha, and then meatus. Superior meatus, middle meatus, and the inferior meatus. These meatus open into the sinus of your head, okay, in the bones. Okay, so let's see the models, large model of your larynx, anterior view. Larynx is made up of 9 cartilage. One of the cartilage is not shown here. So those cartilage are from inferior to superior: cricoid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, and then other cartilage here, arytenoid cartilage, which you cannot see completely, and then epiglottis, which is the flap which covers the larynx during, so it goes interiorly when you are swallowing. Okay, and there are other ligaments and muscles. And then after the cricoid cartilage, trachea start, tracheal cartilage. So this is posterior part. This is the hyoid bone, neck bone, which is hanging in your neck. Then epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, corniculate cartilage, and there is an cuneiform cartilage, bilateral, which is not here. So you have only one cricoid cartilage, only one thyroid cartilage, only one epiglottis, but bilateral corniculate cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, and cuneiform cartilage. Cuneiform cartilage is not shown here. Okay. The larynx posterior view, epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, corniculate cartilage. So these are the cartilage which plays a big role. And you see this one, this part is vocal fold. So if you give a transverse section, not transverse, longitudinal section, mid-sagittal section of the larynx, and when you see from the side, what are you going to see? You're going to see it epiglottis. Then you have vestibular fold superiorly and vocal fold inferiorly. This vestibular and vocal fold like contract and relax and increase this opening and decrease the opening, and that's why its role is in the breathing as well as phonation to produce the sound. Here is the tracheal cartilage, which is 20 in numbers, and there is other structure. Okay, respiratory system. Now lower part of the respiratory system we call lower respiratory tract. So here is the larynx, and then thyroid cartilage, thyroid gland, and then great vessels. Here is the heart. So you see in the heart we have superior vena cava, right atrium, right ventricle, pulmonary trunk, and then lungs. So trachea comes here and divide and get into your lungs. If you see in the right side, you have three lobes: superior lobe, middle lobe, inferior lobe. If you see in real cadaver, inferior lobe is like completely posterior. It's very little part you can see from anterior side. Superior lobe is separated from middle lobe by horizontal fissure, and middle lobe is separated from inferior lobe by the oblique fissure of the right lung. But in the left side, you have only two lobes of the lungs: the superior lobe, inferior lobe, which is separated by each other, oblique fissure of the left lung. Okay, the space between these two lungs is called mediastinum. We have superior mediastinum, middle mediastinum, and inferior mediastinum. And heart, you see, this is the heart apex, which indent on the lung tissue, and that is called cardiac notch of the left lung. Okay. So how trachea ultimately breaks down? You see, it branches. This is the main or primary bronchus, and then secondary or lobar bronchus, and then segmental bronchus, and then higher order bronchus, terminal bronchus, respiratory bronchioles, then bronchioles. And you can see relationship of other organ in the thoracic cavity. You can see behind your trachea, you have your arch of aorta and descending aorta. You have esophagus going on, and behind these all organs, you have your vertebra, you can see. So what is entering the lungs? You see, the blue, this is the branch, this is the pulmonary artery getting inside your lungs. And this red one is pulmonary vein. And the bronchial artery also enters the lungs. This is the lower respiratory portion of the left lung, where it is left lung is removed. You can see superior lobe, middle lobe. It is lying, lungs are lying on the diaphragm. And this is the left side. So this is the inferior lobe of the left lung and superior lobe. Anterior portion of the left lung is removed. This is the right side here. Again, you see the relationship of trachea and the great vessels in the neck. The complete view of lungs here. Superior lobe, horizontal fissure, all fissures and lobes lying on the diaphragm, right lungs and their lobes. This is the thymus behind your sternum. Now, once this is the highly magnified form of the alveolar sac. So respiratory bronchioles ultimately turn into alveolar sac. And alveolar sac contains alveolar duct and the alveoli. Okay. So here, from the bronchioles, branching bronchioles, they become alveolar sac. And then alveolar sac is filled with pulmonary arteries. You see pulmonary arteries coming. And these pulmonary arteries surround each alveoli. So alveoli is surrounded by capillaries. They exchange gases, and then these capillaries becomes pulmonary venules. You see? These pulmonary venules then carry oxygenated blood to your left atrium. And that's how it works, the function of the alveolar sac. Okay? So you see alveoli, each alveoli, pulmonary capillaries, and alveolar pores. Alveolar pores are connection between each alveoli. Each alveoli is connected to each other. That's why sometimes if your one alveoli collapse, other will function. And this is the outer wall of the alveolus. Okay. So this is all in respiratory and the lymphatic system lab. Thank you, guys.